Is your dog having an injury that maybe you're having trouble trying to figure out what's going on, what's wrong, or maybe you're not happy with your current veterinarian and you're really struggling to find a specialist to get down to figuring out what's really going on? This is something that a lot of us, I've personally struggled with. I know a lot of people out there have struggled with, is when something's not right. There's a problem with your dog. Either it's an obvious problem or it's just your gut's telling you something's not right. And the normal people who help you, your normal trainers, your normal veterinarians, you're just not getting the help that you need or that you feel that is required to solve your problem. Where do we turn for help? And then there's also the additional challenge of not having anybody nearby. So this is something I wanted to talk with you today about. A couple of weeks ago, it was about 2 episodes back, I believe it was like episode 19. I talked about when our dogs have these kind of mysterious injuries and it's not always what we think they are. I kind of wanted to expand upon that today. When we do identify that there's a problem or we get something diagnosed or we're struggling to get it diagnosed, a lot of times we're trying to find a specialist to help us and we don't know where to go. So I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some areas, some resources, some places to go to. It might be virtual resources, but sometimes that can be all that you need to solve your problems or to find the help locally that you need. So my name is Erica Bowling. I'm super excited to have you guys here today with me. I am the owner and founder of Northeast Canine Conditioning. I'm also an associate professor of education, but my biggest passion is really helping people take their sport dogs and their working dogs and really turning them into elite canine athletes. So if this is your first time here, welcome, welcome. I'm usually going live on my business Facebook page, Northeast Canine Conditioning, every Friday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And our topics vary from week to week. So today I've talked in the past about injuries and injury prevention, but I haven't talked about, once you get it diagnosed or you think something's wrong, like where do you go for help? Who can help you out? I'm a canine fitness trainer and I'm not a veterinarian. I can help people develop that critical eye to notice when things are off with your dog. But ultimately, there are times where we really need a specialist to help us out. Sometimes it's something minor, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's surgery, we need rehab. And I know a lot of people kind of struggle to know where are the resources, where do we go for help? And that's what I wanted to talk with you today about. So the first thing I want to introduce you to, I'm going to give you some names of some places and resources that I use. Again, geographically, the stuff that I'm going to be referencing they're in the United States. But there are graduates and programs that are kind of scattered throughout the world, and there's a lot of online resources, and I'm finding that there are some canine specialists, rehab specialists with the training who are doing virtual calls and helping people online. So keep that in mind as we move forward. So the first thing I wanted to mention was VOSM.com. I've referenced some of their resources. I've gotten articles from their site, and this is actually where I took Bocce when I had his MRI done for his neck issues. It's a veterinary orthopedic sports medicine group. VOSM.com. If you go to their website, they've got some resources. They've got video instruction, educational videos up there. They've got articles up there, very accessible for the general reader to get more information about some common injuries for sport and working dogs. They are in Maryland. But like I said, even if you're not local, well, if you're capable to drive or commute or to fly to get there, it's totally worth it if you don't have access to specialists and you need them. But I did want to mention their website because they've got some great resources. And what I tell people is if they're trying to find a specialist, if they're looking specifically for veterinarians that specialize in sport and working dogs, maybe your local veterinarian, maybe they don't have that expertise. But, even reaching out to a facility that maybe you don't have access to, they might have recommendations and they might know of people who they work with and colleagues that they recommend. So VOSM is one that I wanted to mention because, like I said, I've used them. I know a lot of people that drive long distances to use them. And I know that it can be hard if you have a sport dog, a working dog. It can be hard to find people that really specialize in the types of injuries that can be frequent or not frequent, but the types of things that we deal with for these types of dogs. And also the demands of on a sport and working dog to get them back to 100% or get them back into competition mode or back, ready to work the streets or whatever their job is. It's not always that our regular veterinarians, they don't always get these dogs on a day-to-day basis. And for example, when Bocce got injured, I was participating in a sport called Frenching. And when I took them to veterinarians and specialists, none of the people who I first went to, nobody knew the sport that we did. So if they said, okay, after 6 weeks of rest or do this, do that, and your dog's ready to go back to compete, if they don't know the requirements of my sport, which is very physically demanding, how can I really trust and know when they say my dog is ready? How do they really know? So one of the things I did was I actually took some video footage and said, this is what my dog has to be able to do if I'm going to go back and compete with him. But it would be so much nicer if you can actually work with a specialist who specializes in sport and working dogs. So maybe they don't know my particular sport, but maybe they get a lot of other dogs in similar sports and protection sports and things like that and work with police and military dogs. So when my dogs, I have, sport and working dogs, High Drive, Malinois, when my dogs have something, not your just typical, your annual vaccinations or whatever, I try my best to find a specialist that's going to have the closest understanding of the needs of my dogs, the kind of work that I do and that they have to return to. But also, I feel better if I can find somebody who specializes in working. If my dog's doing protection sports, and they get a lot of injuries that come in from dogs that do protection sports. They understand the demands of the sport and they see similar injuries related to the things that it is that maybe we're doing and competing in or participating through work. So my personal preference, if it's something specific and unique to what I'm doing with my dogs, sport or work related, ideal situations is to find a specialist who works day in and day out with these types of dogs. So that was what took me to VOSM. I had done some, local veterinarians and specialists. I was having trouble getting a diagnosis. It was a soft tissue injury. I had some regular vets that are like, oh, I've never seen this before. And then I went to veterinarians who work specifically with sport and working dogs, and they're like, we see this injury all the time. So it really can make a difference if you can find somebody who is really, if you have these types of dogs, or if it's a different type of dog or a different type of work, the more that they can kind of understand what it is, the situations that you put your dog in that might have caused the injury, and also the demands that are placed on your dog by the work or the job and what they have to return to when they go back. So again, VOSM, they have a whole veterinary hospital there, but if you just go to their website, there's some, there's some great resources, educational articles, educational videos there. And like I said, if you don't have anybody nearby, it doesn't hurt to pick up the phone or to email and say, hey, I live here. We don't have resources like you have. Do you know of anybody? Can you recommend of anybody within a driving distance to where I live? But I'm going to show you another way to do that without having to pick up the phone. There are websites where you can get resources. So the next one is the Canine Rehabilitation Certification Program, the CCRP of the University of Tennessee has a program where they have certified people coming out who specialize in canine rehabilitation. Now, this is different from, say, a canine fitness trainer. A canine fitness trainer, we're working with healthy dogs, dogs that have been cleared and approved by a veterinarian to return to work. We don't have the medical training. We're not working with dogs, coming straight out of surgery. And so what you want here is if you have somebody who has a specialization in the rehabilitation, they've got that medical side, that knowledge that they bring to the table. They also, a lot of times, they are the veterinarians that have specialized, in addition to going to veterinary school, they've gone back and they've specialized in canine rehabilitation. Some of the programs, in order to get in, now, depending on when you watch this, it might be changing, but the last time I did research on some of these programs, to get in, people have to either already be a veterinarian, a human physical therapist who then transitions and then studies canine physical therapy, a veterinary technicians. They have a program that veterinary technicians can go into. And so, you have people that come in with that medical background, and then they get extra training on the rehabilitation side of things. So ideally, when I was looking for somebody to help me with Bocce when he was having his neck issues, I was trying to find a veterinarian who had the full, veterinary knowledge, and they went to veterinary school, and then they went back and got they got specialized training in the rehabilitation. And so I did want to distinguish that. Sometimes when I talk to people with the, having my canine fitness background, sometimes I do seminars and I think people think that the rehabilitation and the medical specialists and the canine fitness, that we do the same types of things. But pretty much if I say if a dog is injured or you think they're injured, like you need to go to a specialist, you need to go to a veterinarian. And if you have access to sports specialists, veterinarians who have gone through additional training in the rehab, who have experience with sport and working dogs, if that's the kind of work you do, that would be ideal if you could find them. But what I wanted to point out is they had a long URL. I didn't type it up, but if you they are at University of Tennessee. And if you search for the program, it's this, they have a couple different certifications, but if you go to their website, you can search through people who have graduated from the program. So when my students come to me, and sometimes they end up, either they came and they had a dog that was previously injured, a dog gets injured, they need a specialist, they can't find anybody locally, they don't know where to go. I tell them to go to the website, and to search and to find graduates of the program. And that's one way to get started. Because I know I've heard so many people where they really struggle with, where to find somebody to help me. We don't have specialists. We don't have sports medicine specialists. We have just your regular veterinarian that deals with the, day-to-day stuff that the pet dogs struggle with, the challenges that they have. There is another program, and they also have on their website where you can also search again for the graduates. And this is in Florida. And here the URL is the Canine Rehab Institute. So it's the Canine Rehabilitation Institute in Florida. And they have the rehab program there, again, where you can have veterinarians and specialists that go through to get the canine rehabilitation training. Again, which is different if you're doing just regular fitness training. I guess the difference, if you want to equate it to, say, the human side, we have human kind of the rehab specialists. Say if you have an injury, you have surgery, you have to go back and do weekly rehab, and then you have your personal trainers, right, who work with the athletes and the people in the gym and the people who are fit, but they want to be more fit. So you can kind of think of it the same way. The canine fitness trainer is kind of like the equivalent of a human personal trainer, and then the rehab specialist, think of it as the equivalent of the human physical therapist who has studied extensively, and they also have that medical background to support working with people who are recovering from injuries, surgeries, and things like that. So this is another site, if you go there, where you can, like I said, they're in Florida. This is where people go and they train and they study, but graduates are all over the place. And so even if you're not in Florida, I encourage you, if you're like, oh my gosh, I need a specialist, I'm not getting the help I need, we don't have resources like this where I live, I encourage you to check out some of these places where people actually get these, certifications, where they study, and see if there's any graduates within a driving distance, or if you can fly your dog, and if it's something serious, it's definitely worth it. Bocce went almost a year without us getting a proper diagnosis. I spent thousands of dollars doing x-rays and going to different specialists trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And, if I had known early on that, at the time I didn't know about VOSM when he first started showing, signs of something going wrong. But, for me, looking back, if it had cost more money and if I had to spend 2 days driving to go find a specialist, I didn't have to drive 2 days, but reflecting back, it would have totally been worth it in the long run, instead of going here and going there and trying this and trying that and spending all this money. If I could have, found somebody that I knew kind of specialized and dealt with the types of injuries that these dogs frequently encounter, it would have been well worth the money. Whether if I had to travel and take that extra time. But like I said, a lot of times people don't know. You don't know when you're going through this, when you're struggling. You don't know what resources are at your fingertips, and that's why I'm here today, to give you some of these resources. I also wanted to point out, this is something that frequently comes up whenever I'm talking at seminars and conferences, is people ask me, when you think about your dog's healthcare kind of team, and I see more and more people starting to talk about this, and even whenever we do kind of intake forms and we're getting new clients and stuff, and on the canine fitness side of things, a lot of times we traditionally would just say, who's your veterinarian? When I'm working with my clients in my elite canine athlete program, it's like, not just asking who's the veterinarian that you work, who do you have as a veterinarian, but there's a lot of people now, especially in the sport dog world, they have canine massage therapists that they regularly go to. They go to the chiropractors with their dogs, and some people have a regular, once a month, every so many weeks. And there's a whole list of things that people do holistically on that side of things. There's a lot of resources out there that people use whenever they're trying to keep their dog healthy, keep their dog in top condition, and also when they're dealing with recovery or trying to diagnose issues that are going on. So one of the common questions that people ask me is, what do I think about taking your dog to a chiropractor? And I'm not an expert here. I don't have training. I've done, I have friends that do it. I have friends that practice it, who are professionals in the field. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in the area. And I definitely have seen people where they'll say, I went here, I went there, I couldn't get any help. My dog wasn't getting better. And then I started taking my dog to the chiro and I saw, these amazing results. I've seen, opposite stories where I did the same thing and I didn't see a difference. There's really just one thing that I really want to tell people whenever they ask me this is, if my dog, I have some people that go, oh, I take my dog every month or every so many weeks and my dog's getting readjusted. And every time I go, the chiro tells me, oh, my dog's, the hips shifted a little here, or I have to put this in, in better alignment. And I know people that go on a very regular basis. And when they go, it's kind of like the same thing that's always coming up, and they're always getting the dog, aligned. And one of the things that I think about is, okay, when I think about canine fitness, I really, really emphasize having a balanced fitness program and always looking at your dog and trying to identify balance and imbalances. When your dog's sitting, when your dog's standing, your dog's structure, where is their balance and where are their imbalances? Is your dog always sitting crooked? Is always, on one hip versus the other? Do you notice when your dog lays down, there's always one foot in front of the other and doesn't completely go down on the ground? When your dog's sitting, do you notice that one knee is always sticking off to the side and the other knee is nice and straight, going forward? These are the things I'm always looking for. Is I'm looking for balance. It could be balance and flexibility. If I turn my dog to the right or turn my dog to the left, do a circle to the right, do a circle to the left. We favor one side or the other. If I take my arm and stretch it behind my back, I'm more flexible on one side of my body versus the other. So it's the same with our dogs. They're not machines. They're not perfect. They're going to have one leg's a little longer than the other. They're going to be a little more flexible on one side of the body versus the other. So I'm always looking at where are those imbalances? Why do those imbalances? Why do they exist? Is it because lack of muscle? Maybe they need to do more strengthening. Maybe their muscles are tight more on one side versus the other. Maybe there is an injury. Maybe there's a soreness. But the idea is you're always looking at balance, because when we're out of balance, right? When we're out of balance, that is contributing. There's some weakness. And with that weakness, depending on what's happening, that weak spot could potentially be a spot where an injury can occur. And so if I have somebody who tells me that they're going, every 2 weeks and it's always the same issue when they're going to the chiro, I'm thinking, okay, what is it? Why is this dog always needing this adjustment? Why is it that this side is always tighter? Why is it that, one hip, we get them adjusted, the dog's really, doing well. And then 2 weeks later, it's out of whack again. And so what my advice to people is that the best thing to do is to combine. If you're going to be doing canine massage, you're going to take your dog to a chiro. If you're going to be, doing a fitness program and doing exercises and strengthening and flexibility, to me, to maximize, to get the most out of it, is you need to combine and combine these different things together. I like to do massage with my stretching. Because I feel like the massage is helping enhance the stretching with my dog. I don't do just stretching. I also look at, how can I build strength? How can I build cardio? So where I get concerned when people ask me about my views on taking their dog to the chiro is sometimes I see people when they're taking them on a very consistent basis, and there's, issues every time they go. When they leave, things are, better. And then a few weeks later, they have to go back again. Is I see people sometimes doing this and they're not doing anything else. they're not doing stretching at home. They're not doing strengthening. They're not doing other exercises to help maintain balance in their dog. So in my mind, if the dog is continually needing to get some kind of alignment, something's getting, we need to get something readjusted. What is it that you're doing? What is it that is throwing your dog out of balance that, every 3 weeks you're having to do this? And are you attending to that? Are you attending to where are your dog's strengths? Where are your dog's weaknesses? Where is your dog tight? Where is your dog, where do you need to do some more flexibility? And to me, I feel like sometimes people are turning and kind of, oh, here's my answer, and they're going to fix everything, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at what are you doing with your dog on a day-to-day basis? What are you doing to help promote having a well-conditioned, a well-balanced dog? Because like I said, if you aren't also, constantly looking at where are those strengths, where are those weaknesses, where is my dog needing some support? Where do we need to get stronger? If you're not attending to that, your dog's always going to be off, right? You're always going to be building into and feeding into those imbalances. And like I said, then you're back to, every 3 weeks, my dog needs to get adjusted, or, every so many months, we keep cropping up with this particular injury. And an example, I guess, where this really hit home for me was when Bachi had his issue with the iliopsoas. The iliopsoas, that groin area, the groin muscles. And we think that, we don't know 100%. He's a Malinois. He's a large Malinois. He's about 80. His competition weight was about 86 pounds. Maybe structured a little bit more like a German Shepherd, very long in the back. We think what happened is it started out with weakness in his lower back. And I wasn't cross training. I wasn't doing strength. I was just training French train. I wasn't building a balanced program. And so what we think happened was it started with just a weaker back. And I worked him. And then he wasn't getting stronger in the lower back. I wasn't doing exercises to strengthen his core. He was just doing, training for competition. And so I was building into those imbalances. And then what happened, we think, is it eventually that kind of the pulling and the tightness and the weakness in the lower back, it started, if you think about it, your hamstrings, right? Think about your quadriceps. If you have imbalances in the muscles, right, in your legs, it affects the lower back. And you think about where the muscles are attached to your hips. They're all interconnected. So we think it started with a weakness in the lower back that pretty much could have been started through structural related, just his structure. He's long, he's lanky, he doesn't have a lot of muscle there. And then in addition to that, I was not building those muscles. I was not doing core exercises. I was not specifically focusing on strength exercises for his lower back. So we think that contributed. I kept working him. It ended up, we started having issues on one side in the iliopsoas. It wasn't diagnosed. They said, if he's not limping, you can keep working him. So I kept working him. Periodic lameness, I'd rest him, he'd be fine. I'd go back to work, but it was never fully recovered. And I kept training because he wasn't always limping. He seemed okay. And then what happened is we think because it wasn't, we didn't attend to it, it became chronic. And then we now had it happening on both the left and the right side of the hind end in the groin area. And so we went through rehab, we got it diagnosed, we did our exercises, resting, exercise, rehab, we got him back healthy, we got him back into competition. But one thing that really stuck out in my mind was and I worked with a rehab specialist, she was like, because of the way your dog is structured, this is his weak spot. His lower back is his weak spot, the way he's structured. And if I rehab him and get him better and I stop everything, right? I stop my conditioning. I stop my core exercises. I stop my strengthening. So I say, oh, look, he's better. Let's go back to competition. Let's go back to training. And if I stopped everything, those imbalances are going to come right back. And there's a really good chance that injury is going to come right back. And it's an injury that commonly does come back. So it really hit home to me because based on my dog's structure, that was a structural weakness, just the way he was built. Long in the back, long and lanky, and then his history, he had an issue, some prior muscle pull. And so I knew that if I was going to continue to work my dog, continue training, continue to compete with him, I have to keep up a fitness program. I can't just, ignore all those exercises and the things I did for months to get him strong again. If I just stopped all that and said, oh, my dog's better, there's a really good chance that those injuries are, that the injury is going to come back. And that's actually what got me, that's what kicked all this canine fitness stuff. That's what got it all started. And so when people ask me, taking the dog to the chiro, getting the dog adjusted, I just caution people and question them. Okay, fine, but are you doing other things? What are you doing? What are you attending to when you're not taking your dog there? What are you doing on a week-to-week basis? What are you doing on a daily basis to attend to your dog's strengths and weaknesses, to their structural strengths and weaknesses, to the training strengths and weaknesses? We all have it. All our dogs have it. Here's an example: competing in IPO, focused healing, obedience training, focused healing, and your dog's looking up. Think of how many hours and hours and hours and years when you're training and competing that your dog is in that position. Think about if you walked around, hours throughout the day and you're always in that position with your head turned up, you're creating the jobs we do with our dogs and the work we do with our dogs and the exercises we do, the sports we do. We create imbalances in our dogs. So, we have to look at the bigger picture. We have to look holistically. So when we get an injured dog and we look at getting our dog healthy again, sometimes we have to open up what we're looking at, and sometimes we need to bring in canine massage providers. Sometimes we need to bring in the rehab specialists. When your dog's fit and healthy, to keep them healthy, you need to start looking at canine fitness training. What do you know about canine fitness? What do we know about developing a balanced fitness program and keeping our dogs healthy and safe and injury-free? So that was a long answer to the question about my thoughts about taking a dog to a chiropractor. But it all goes back to, you have to look at what you're doing on a balanced program. What are you doing to keep your dog fit in a balanced way? Are you attending to cardio, to aerobic, to anaerobic, to flexibility, strength training, body awareness, sports-specific training, work-specific training? And I know that it can be overwhelming, and I know there's a lot to attend to, but there are ways you can integrate very easily into your day-to-day training routine. You can build in fitness things to support your dogs. So I'm going to throw up a quick link here. It's caninefitnessquiz.com. If you haven't done it, I encourage you to take it. The Canine Fitness Quiz is like a little self-reflective, self-assessment quiz where you can rate yourself on your understanding on various components of what it means to have a well-fit, a well-conditioned dog. And what it does is it will send you a summary of your results, and it will average up your scores. You're going to rate yourself on a scale of like 0 to 10, and you'll be able to see where are your own strengths, where are your own weaknesses, where do you have a lot of knowledge, where are there areas where maybe you need to learn more. And a summary of the results will also come to me. But if you do it, you could also qualify for a complimentary one-on-one canine fitness coaching session with me. I could do it virtually. I could do it on phone. But I encourage you, if you haven't done it, people who take it, it really opens up their eyes. A lot of times when people take the Canine Fitness Quiz, they tell me, they're like, wow, I thought I knew canine fitness. I didn't realize there were so many other things involved. I thought I was doing a good job. I didn't realize that there were these other things that I could have been doing. So I encourage you to check it out, caninefitnessquiz.com. It's K9, fitnessquiz.com. And before I leave, for those of you, if you came in late, I'm just going to quickly go over those resources again, because you might want to Google them and go to their websites. The first one, veterinary, orthopedic, sports medicine, the specialist, VOSM, in Maryland. This is where I took Bocce for his MRI. They specialize sport dogs, working dogs, and check out their website because they got some good articles, educational articles, and they got some good educational videos there. The other one, the program that certifies people in rehabilitation, canine rehabilitation, the certification program, they have a couple different programs, University of Tennessee. Remember, if you go to their website, there is on the left-hand column on the navigation, you can search for people who've graduated from their program. So even if you don't live in Tennessee, hopefully there might be somebody nearby who lives near you or that in a commuting distance if you need a specialist. And then the other one was the Canine Rehab Institute. They also certify people in the canine rehabilitation, and they are in Florida. But again, go to the website and look for graduates if you need a specialist. So again, this is somebody, if you're looking for somebody, if you're dealing with injuries, injury recovery. You're looking at the medical side. And then I also wanted to put up one more time that canine fitness quiz. So Angie mentioned here, Ziva gets a chiropractic adjustments and acupuncture. That's another one we didn't talk about today, but acupuncture, but every 4 to 6 weeks, but you do a good balanced program to help keep the adjustments. And I know because Angie's done the Elite Canine Athlete program with me, so I know Angie knows about the canine fitness side of things. And Angie says, if people, I know this is a long quote. Let me pull it up on the screen. But yeah, Angie says here, if people just do adjustments and don't do a fitness program to help strengthen the muscles, to keep the spine, the hips, things in place, the adjustments don't help. With the protection work Ziva does, she needs the adjustments at times and acupuncture. Like I said, I didn't go into acupuncture today, but that definitely is another, I know people who have used it and they swear by it. But like I said, I'm not an expert, in the medical field. I'm not an expert when it comes to chiropractic care. I did study I'm certified as a canine massage therapist. But that's my main thing. That's my main kind of argument is, if people are taking their dogs to get adjusted, what are they doing to attend to those imbalances and ensure that your dog is having a well-rounded fit program? So, Angie, thank you so much. I actually did take Bocce to one a couple times. I had my whole fitness team, he was getting the massage. We had a couple adjustments with the chiropractor. And then, we also did some rehabilitation, with a rehab specialist, and, he did get better. Did the adjustment help? Did it not? I can't, because I was combining multiple things and helping him in his recovery process. I can't say exactly, this did this and this did that. It definitely didn't hurt. But I was definitely looking at it, I was looking at the whole picture. And I was doing multiple things to get him healthy. And I was doing the fitness side of things. And Angie says, nothing replaces a canine fitness. Like I said, you can't ignore it, because you can go do the acupuncture, go do the chiropractic care, and, take your dog home, and, the next week, the next 2 weeks, your dog's doing fine. But exactly, if you're going back out and you're training, you're doing agility, you're doing protection work, you're working your dog really hard, you're doing sports, whatever it is, if you're just, feeding into those imbalances and you aren't attending to them, it's very likely you're going to continue to have those issues that you're having, and it's frequently due to those imbalances. And again, don't forget, it's just what we do with our dogs and the sports and the activities we do. We are creating imbalances. And it's there. Nobody's perfect in the human world and in the canine world. So there are always things that we can be doing. So again, if you want to know more, if you want to kind of do a little pre-assessment and kind of say, well, what is my own knowledge? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses when it comes to canine fitness? I encourage you to go to the caninefitnessquiz.com. It'll send you a summary of results. It'll have that kind of reflective moment, go, maybe there's some more things I'd like to know about. And if it is something that you want to know more about, you want to study, or you want to, chat, if you have some questions, feel free to reach out to me. But again, if you do the canine fitness quiz, you could qualify for a complimentary one-on-one canine fitness session with me. A number of people here have done those with me. So again, I'm Erica Bowling with Northeast Canine Conditioning. I am live on my Facebook business page, Northeast Canine Conditioning. Pretty much I've been doing every Friday now. It's now been about 21 weeks. I try to be here every Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I do share the videos elsewhere. So if you're watching the replay, thank you for being here. Comment below if you want to share any of experiences, or if you have other great resources where people might want to go if they're looking for a specialist. I just shared the ones that I've had experience with. And also if you're watching the replay, also if you're watching here live, if you thought any of this information was helpful, if any of it was useful, if you think this would be something that other people could benefit from, please feel free to share, spread it along, share the video, shoot it in an email, cross-post it. I don't care, get the word out there. But I shared a number of resources, and I know for a fact there are people that don't know these resources are out there. I know people that have come to me with injured dogs and they didn't even know that there were such things as veterinarians who specialize in sports injuries. So I know this information. It can make a huge difference in somebody's life, in the humans and the canine. So, I think it's valuable, but if you think it's valuable too, please feel free to share, pass it along, and come join me. If you want to join me live, Fridays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, Northeast Canine Conditioning on Facebook. I kind of vary my topics from canine fitness to business related topics. The last couple of weeks they were fitness related, but if you go to my business page and click on videos, also at my YouTube channel has some of them, you'll see multiple weeks of various different topics. So feel free to share. And Angie, thank you for sharing your experiences. And thank you for viewing. Again, share, and I hope to see you at the next live session on Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.